Hello there, my sleepy fellows. Tonight, we set out on another peaceful journey through the mist-laden lands of Middle-earth, where mystery and wonder whisper through the ancient stones and rolling hills. Let your mind drift into the gentle glow of candlelight, the distant echo of a lute in a warm tavern, and the cool breath of the mountain wind whispering through time-worn corridors of legend. The tale before us is one woven with intrigue and quiet adventure, a story of long-lost secrets buried beneath the golden halls of Erebor, the great Dwarven kingdom. Many know the thought of the dragon Smaug, his fiery reign of destruction, and his inevitable fall. But tonight, we turn our gaze not to the devastation he wrought, but to the hidden mysteries he guarded, the treasures locked beneath his slumbering form, forgotten by time. Tonight, we venture into a tale not often told. While many have sung songs of Smaug the Terrible and the riches he hoarded within the lonely mountain, few have dared to ask, what lay beyond his mighty shadow? What secrets did his presence hide beneath the golden sea of stolen treasure? Some say there were relics within Erebor older than the dragon himself, items of power and wonder lost to time, their purpose forgotten even by the dwarves who once ruled the mountain. As our tale unfolds, we will journey through the hidden chambers and lost vaults beneath the Erebor, discovering secrets that have remained undisturbed for centuries. We will listen to the echoes of the past and uncover the whispers of legends waiting to be remembered. If you find comfort in the magic of Middle-earth, in the quiet unfolding of a tale woven with mystery and wonder, consider staying with me on this journey. Let this story guide you into restful slumber, where the lands of dwarves, elves, and men stretch endlessly beyond the reach of time. And if you enjoy these peaceful adventures, you are welcome to return. Like a well-loved book upon a wooden shelf, these tales will always be here, waiting for you. Before we start this tale, I would like to make a special request to my sleepy fellows that only 13% of the viewers have subscribed to the channel, so kindly subscribe to the channel while you listen to these stories, as it only takes one click. Your support keeps us motivated to make more such stories. So now, with the soft glow of lanterns flickering in the deep halls of Erebor, let us take the first step into a world forgotten by all but the stones themselves. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let the journey begin. The fires of Erebor may have long since cooled, but the echoes of its past still linger within its deep halls. Beneath the lonely mountain, where stone and gold intertwine, lies a world few have dared to fully explore. Dwarves once carved great halls into the mountain's heart, shaping vast chambers that glittered with riches beyond imagining. But amidst the wealth, there were things hidden, things long buried beneath Smaug's hoard, secrets locked away in forgotten vaults. Tonight, we follow the footsteps of one who seeks to uncover these lost wonders. Our traveler is a young dwarf named Dain, son of Bruni, a scholar rather than a warrior, unlike many of his kin. His beard is neatly braided, his clothes well kept, but his hands bear the ink stains of one who has spent his life reading ancient tomes rather than wielding axes. Though he was born years after Smaug was slain, he has grown up with stories of the dragon's rule and the dwarves' eventual return to their homeland. Yet, his mind does not linger on war or vengeance. His heart yearns for discovery, for the mysteries hidden within the mountain's depths. Among the scattered parchments and crumbling scrolls of Erebor's great library, Dain has found whispers of an ancient treasure, one never spoken of in songs or legends. The texts mention a chamber lost to time, sealed before Smaug ever set claw upon the mountain. What was hidden within? Why was it locked away? These are the questions that fuel his curiosity, keeping him awake through long nights, studying by the flickering light of candle and lantern. And so, when an old map surfaces, a faded, fragile parchment that hints at passages unknown to modern dwarves, Dain knows he must follow where it leads. Unlike Thorin Oakenshield's company, this will not be a journey across Middle-earth, but a journey downward into the very bones of the mountain. The deeper halls of Erebor are rarely spoken of, and even those who have lived within the lonely mountain since its reclamation whisper of strange echoes and shadows that move beyond the reach of light. Dain will not go alone. His dearest friend, a sturdy dwarf named Varric, has agreed to accompany him. Where Dain is thoughtful and precise, Varric is bold and brash, his hammer never far from his grasp. He does not share Dain's love for history, but his loyalty is unwavering, and he will not let his friend wander into danger alone. Their path will take them beyond the halls where their kin feast and sing, down into tunnels where even dwarves seldom tread. What lies in wait for them, forgotten relics, untouched gold, or something else entirely, remains to be seen. But one thing is certain, Erebor still holds secrets, and tonight, beneath the weight of stone and time, two dwarves will seek to uncover them. The halls of Erebor stretched deep into the mountain, far beyond the bustling forges and grand feasting halls where dwarves now thrived once more. Though the lonely mountain had been reclaimed, not all of its secrets had been unearthed. There were corridors long sealed, vaults forgotten in the passing of centuries, and chambers lost beneath the weight of stone and time. It was into this unknown that Dain, son of Bruni, and his companion, Varric, now ventured. Their journey began within the dim glow of the great library, where yellowed scrolls and crumbling maps had revealed a passage not marked on any modern chart of Erebor. The old texts spoke of a hidden chamber sealed before the coming of Smaug, before the days when the dragon's fiery breath had turned gold to molten rivers. Whatever lay beyond that passage had been locked away by the ancient kings of Erebor, its secrets buried deeper than any had dared to seek. Dain held the map carefully, tracing the faded ink with his fingers. The route was treacherous, leading into the lower tunnels where light rarely reached. Many of these passages had collapsed over the centuries, and those that remained intact were said to whisper with unseen movement, as though the stones themselves remembered something that had long been forgotten. "I still say this is madness," Varric muttered, adjusting the weight of his hammer strapped to his back. "There's a reason these tunnels were abandoned, Dain." Dain glanced up from the map, his expression calm but unwavering. And there's a reason they were sealed before Smaug's time, he countered. If it had simply been due to cave-ins or weak foundations, why were they never reopened? Varric huffed but said no more. He was loyal, and that loyalty meant he would follow his friend into whatever folly awaited them. With torches in hand, the two dwarves descended. The first corridors were familiar, lined with great stone pillars carved in the likeness of Durin's sons, their bearded faces watching the dwarves pass with silent judgment. Here, the walls bore golden inlays, and echoes of hammer strikes could be heard in the distance, evidence of dwarves hard at work in the forges. But soon, those sounds faded. The golden trim along the walls disappeared, replaced by bare, unadorned stone. The pillars gave way to rough-hewn tunnels where dust coated the ground in a thick layer, untouched for generations. The air grew heavier, colder, as if the mountain itself resisted their presence. "This place feels wrong," Varric muttered, his voice low. His torchlight flickered against the walls, revealing faded carvings, runes etched deep but worn with time. Dain brushed his fingers over one of the markings, murmuring softly as he deciphered the ancient script. "Warning," he translated. "Beyond this threshold, none shall return." Varric snorted, encouraging. Despite the ominous warning, Dain pressed forward, leading the way deeper into the abandoned tunnels. The floor sloped downward, uneven beneath their boots. The deeper they went, the more the air seemed to shift, carrying a faint scent of something ancient, earthy and metallic, like rusted iron and forgotten time. After what felt like an eternity, they reached a door. The doorway was unlike any they had seen before. Unlike the grand arched gates of Erebor's main halls, this one was plain, unassuming, and unmarked, save for a single dwarven rune in the center. The rune of silence. Dain reached out, hesitating only for a moment before pressing his hand against the stone. Beneath his touch, the rune flared faintly, as if responding to the warmth of his skin. A low groan echoed through the tunnel as the door trembled, dust raining down from its edges. Then, with a deep shudder, the stone slid aside. Beyond the doorway lay darkness. The chamber before them was vast, stretching beyond the reach of their torches. The air was thick, undisturbed for centuries. As they stepped forward, their boots crunched against something on the ground. Gold. But not just gold. Treasures of all kinds lay scattered across the chamber floor. Jewels, crowns, goblets, and weapons, their glimmer dulled by time, but no less valuable. This was not part of Smaug's hoard. This was something older, untouched by the dragon's greed. Dain knelt, picking up a small golden figurine. "This is from the Second Age," he whispered. "Elven craftsmanship." Varric frowned. What would elven relics be doing in a sealed dwarven chamber? Dain did not have an answer. Their torchlight flickered, casting strange shadows along the chamber walls. There were pedestals in the corners, some still holding artifacts, ancient helmets, scrolls, even a silver circlet encrusted with blue sapphires. At the center of the room stood a massive stone chest, its lid covered in intricate carvings. Dain stepped toward it, his breath caught in his throat. "This is it," he murmured, This must be what the texts spoke of. Varric shifted uneasily. I don't like this, Dain. We've found more than we bargained for. Dain wasn't listening. He reached out, tracing the carvings on the chest. They depicted scenes of dwarves and elves, not in battle, but in unity, a long-forgotten alliance. His fingers found the edge of the lid. Dain, wait. Too late. With a deep groan, the chest opened. For a moment, nothing happened. Then within the chest, something gleamed, not gold, nor jewels, but something else. Dain lifted it carefully, a crown. It was unlike any dwarven crown he had ever seen. Its silver bands were etched with runes, its gems shimmering in the dim torchlight. It radiated an energy, something ancient, something powerful. And then, from the shadows of the chamber, something stirred, a whisper, low and distant, like the voice of the mountain itself. Varric grabbed Dain's shoulder, his grip tight. We need to leave, now. Dain hesitated only a moment longer, staring at the crown in his hands. Then, with a sharp nod, he tucked it into his pack. Whatever they had uncovered, it was not meant to be left behind. As they turned back toward the exit, the shadows in the chamber seemed to shift, closing in around them. The secrets of Erebor had been unearthed, and they were no longer alone. The chamber was vast, its walls lined with old dwarven runes, carved by hands that had long since turned to dust. The glow of the torches flickered, throwing restless shadows over the golden hoard that lay untouched for centuries. The air was thick with something unseen, a presence neither alive nor dead, lingering in the silence. Dain and Varric stood frozen, the weight of their discovery pressing upon them. The crown in Dain's hands was heavier than it should have been, as if it bore the burden of history itself. The silver glinted even in the dim torchlight, its gemstones pulsing faintly, as if awakening after an eternal slumber. Varric's grip on his hammer tightened. Dain, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. That thing, it's not just treasure. Dain exhaled slowly. He could feel it too. There was power woven into this relic, something beyond mere wealth. He studied the crown, tracing the runes that lined its band. They were unlike any he had seen before, neither purely dwarven nor entirely elven. The silence in the chamber deepened. Then something stirred. A whisper slithered through the air, like wind moving through hollow tunnels. It wasn't the voice of a single entity, but many, layered, echoing, stretching across time itself. Who awakens the secret of Erebor? Varric took a step back, his torch trembling in his grip. That's enough for me, he muttered. We're leaving. Dain's gaze remained fixed on the crown. His fingers tightened around it. He wasn't sure if the whisper had come from the chamber itself or from within his own mind, but the words sent a shiver through his bones. I am Dain, son of Bruni, he called out, his voice steadier than he felt. We seek the truth of what was hidden here before the dragon came. Silence. Then a deep, rumbling sound filled the chamber, like the shifting of the mountain's very bones. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the air grew colder. The shadows in the corners of the room twisted, coalescing into something darker. For a heartbeat, The flickering light of the torches illuminated a shape, an indistinct figure, tall and broad, draped in tattered robes of black and gold. It loomed near the far end of the vault, watching. Dain felt his pulse quicken. This was no living dwarf. The figure did not step forward, nor did it retreat. It lingered, a guardian of something long buried, a shade of the past refusing to be forgotten. The treasures of Erebor were not only gold and jewels, the whispering voice intoned. Not all that was hidden here was meant to be found. Dain swallowed. Who are you? The shape remained still, but the whispers did not cease. The last of the Iron Council, the voice murmured, those who swore an oath to protect the legacy of Durin. We sealed away what should not be taken, and yet you have come. Dain's grip tightened around the crown. His instincts told him to drop it, to turn and run, but something within him resisted. The world has changed, he said carefully. The dragon is gone. Erebor is rebuilt. If this treasure was meant for Durin's line, should it not be reclaimed? A silence stretched long and heavy, then a slow, terrible movement. The figure raised a spectral hand, and as it did, the torches dimmed. The air thickened, as though the very mountain held its breath. You do not understand what you have taken, the whisper sighed. The crown was not lost. It was buried, sealed, and now. A sudden gust of cold swept through the chamber. The gold beneath their feet trembled, and a low, distant growl reverberated through the stone. Varric grabbed Dain's arm. I don't know what's happening, but I don't intend to find out. Put it back. Dain hesitated. He could feel the power thrumming beneath his fingers, the weight of history pressing against him. He knew that if he left it behind, they might never find this place again. And yet, a sudden burst of wind howled through the chamber, sending their torches sputtering. The figure before them wavered, its form dissolving into mist. Then, in a voice that was no longer a whisper, but a command that rattled the stone itself, it spoke. You have broken the seal. A deafening crack split the air. The walls shuddered, and the ground beneath them trembled. Gold and gems slid from their piles, scattering like falling leaves. From the depths of the vault, something ancient stirred. Varric swore, Dain, move! The chamber collapsed into chaos. The shadowed form faded, its duty fulfilled, but something else had awoken in its place, something unseen, but powerful. The energy of the crown flared, a pale blue light seeping from its gemstones. Dain shoved it into his pack, not knowing why, only that they had no time. The mountain groaned. The tunnels beyond the vault seemed darker, deeper. They could hear the echoes of something moving, a sound not made by their own footsteps. The deeper secrets of Erebor were no longer at rest, and whatever lay in the depths was rising. Dain and Varric stumbled through the collapsing vault, their breaths ragged as the distant echoes of shifting stone rumbled through the corridors behind them. The ancient crown pulsed with a faint glow inside Dain's pack, its power undeniable. The once forgotten vault had awoken, and whatever had been sealed away in the depths of Erebor was now stirring. They moved swiftly through the dimly lit tunnels, guided only by the flickering glow of their torches and the fading memory of the path they had taken to reach the secret chamber. Each step they took sent gold coins skittering underfoot, their clinking sound swallowed by the growing silence of the deep mountain. Finally, as the tremor subsided and the path ahead widened, they found themselves in a cavern unlike any other, a vast, open space where the air was thick with history and the whispers of long-departed kings. The walls shimmered faintly, lined with veins of mithril that caught the light of their torches and refracted it like scattered stars in the darkness. Dain exhaled slowly, steadying himself. "We can't turn back now," he murmured. Varric shot him a look. "I wasn't planning to," he said, though his voice carried the weight of uncertainty. "But tell me, do you feel it?" Dain nodded. He had felt it since they had left the vault. A presence, not just the restless spirit of the Guardian, but something older, deeper, something bound to the treasure they had uncovered. And then, as if summoned by their thoughts, a sound echoed through the chamber. A voice. It was neither loud nor aggressive, but calm and ancient, like the sigh of the mountain itself. "You have come far, too far." The voice sent a shiver down their spines. It was deep, resonant, and strangely melodic. Dain turned toward the source, and as his torchlight flickered across the cavern, he saw a figure seated upon a stone throne, half buried in time. A dwarf, though not entirely. His beard was long, silvered with age, and his robes bore the intricate embroidery of an era long past. His eyes glowed faintly with an inner light, as if he were more than just flesh and bone, something between spirit and memory. His fingers rested upon the armrests of his throne, and before him lay an open book, its pages untouched by dust or decay. Varric tightened his grip on his hammer. "Who are you?" The figure did not move, but his gaze locked onto them with an intensity that made it impossible to look away. "I am Orvin, last keeper of the Chronicles," he said, "guardian of the forgotten lore of Erebor, and you carry something that was never meant to see the light of day." Dain hesitated before speaking. "This crown was never meant to be worn again," Orvin interrupted. His voice carried neither anger nor judgment, but something deeper, sorrow. Dain swallowed. Then why was it hidden instead of destroyed? A silence stretched between them, and then Orvin reached out, turning a page in the great book before him. The symbols upon it shimmered, ancient runes shifting and reforming as if written in living ink. "Because," Orvin said, "there are things in this world that cannot be destroyed, only forgotten." As the runes settled, the cavern grew colder, and the walls seemed to pulse with echoes of history. Orvin gestured to the book. "Do you know of the first war of Erebor?" Dain frowned. "You mean the war between the dwarves and dragons? Everyone knows that tale." Orvin shook his head. "No, not that war." He traced a finger across the page, and as he did, images formed in the air above them, like flickering memories drawn from the very stone of the mountain. It was a vision of Erebor in its earliest days, long before Smaug's arrival. The great halls gleamed with golden light, and dwarves bustled about, crafting, building, thriving, but among them walked figures of another kind, taller, cloaked in shimmering robes, their faces obscured. Elves? Varric murmured in surprise. Orvin nodded. There was a time when the dwarves of Erebor and the elves of the north were not enemies, but allies. Dane watched as the vision unfolded. He had heard of treaties between the races in the past, but never had he imagined such close cooperation. But, Orvin continued, there was one secret that bound them together, a secret hidden deep beneath the mountain. The image shifted, the halls darkened, the elves stood in a circle surrounding a single object, an artifact of immense power. It was not a weapon, nor a jewel, but a crown of mithril, inlaid with runes that shimmered with an otherworldly light. Dain's breath caught in his throat. It was the same crown he had found in the vault. This crown, Orvin said, was not merely a symbol of dwarven rule. It was a key to something that should never have been opened. The vision darkened further. The elves in the memory looked tense, their voices raised in hurried discussion. The elves warned against it, Orvin said. They believed it was bound to something ancient, something older than the halls of Erebor itself. But the dwarves did not listen. The image shifted once more, and now the halls of Erebor were filled with chaos. The dwarves who had worn the crown began to change. Their eyes darkened, their forms grew weary, and one by one they fell into madness. Dain's grip on the crown tightened. Orvin's voice grew softer. The crown was sealed away, buried in the deepest vaults of Erebor, never to be spoken of again. The elves left, never to return, and over time, the tale was forgotten. Varric let out a breath. Until now. The vision faded, and the cavern returned to silence. Dain felt the weight of the crown heavier than ever before. You have seen what it can do, Orvin said. Now you must choose. Will you return it to the vaults, to be lost once more, or will you claim it and risk awakening the curse of the mountain? Dain met his gaze. He thought of his people, of Erebor reborn. Could this relic bring them strength, or would it only lead to ruin? The echoes of history whispered around him, urging him toward an answer. And as he stood there, the fate of Erebor hung in the balance. The cavern was silent, save for the flickering of the torches, casting restless shadows on the mithril-lined walls. Dain stood at the center of it all, the ancient crown resting heavily in his hands. Its metal was warm, pulsing with an energy that made the very air around it hum. Orvin, the last keeper of the chronicles, watched him with eyes filled with sorrow and knowing. The choice lay before Dain: return the crown to the darkness, sealing away its forgotten power forever, or claim it as his own and risk the resurgence of a force lost to time. Varric shifted uncomfortably beside him. We can't ignore what we've seen, Dain. If the crown holds the power of the mountain itself, what if it could be used to strengthen Erebor? Orvin's voice was measured but firm. And what if it brings ruin instead? That crown has been worn before. The halls of Erebor have echoed with its madness. Dain closed his eyes briefly, inhaling deeply. He felt the weight of his ancestors pressing upon him, urging him to choose wisely. The visions Orvin had conjured lingered in his mind. The dwarves who had once ruled with wisdom, who had fallen to the crown's whispering power, who had become something darker than even Smaug's shadow. The elves had foreseen it. They had tried to stop it, and yet the dwarves had ignored the warnings, believing themselves strong enough to master whatever lay within the crown's mithril weave. Dain opened his eyes and looked at Orvin. "You said the crown was a key," he said. "A key to something that should never be opened." Orvin gave a slow nod. "Yes, and that key is now in your hands." A tremor ran through the cavern, subtle but unmistakable. Dust cascaded from the ceiling, and far off in the tunnels, a deep, resounding boom echoed through the halls of Erebor. Varric cursed under his breath. "That's the second time something's rumbled since we left the vault. I don't like it." Dain's grip on the crown tightened. He had spent his life believing that Erebor had been fully reclaimed, that Smaug's shadow had been erased. But something deeper lingered in the mountain's bones. Something even Smaug had feared. The mountain itself was stirring. The ground beneath them shook again, this time harder. Stones dislodged from the high cavern walls, splashing into shallow pools of water. Orvin straightened on his stone throne, his spectral glow flickering. "It's waking up," he murmured. Varric shot him a sharp look. "What's waking up?" Before Orvin could answer, a low, guttural growl reverberated from the tunnels. It wasn't the sound of shifting stone or echoing tremors. This was something alive. Dain turned sharply, every muscle tensed. The sound came again, a deep and throaty snarl that carried the weight of ancient hunger. The darkness beyond the cavern entrance stirred. Then, out of the void, two enormous eyes opened. They glowed a dull gold, like smoldering embers buried beneath years of dust. A shape began to emerge, scales scraping against the stone, an ancient body shifting for the first time in an age. Dain's breath caught. By Durin's beard, even Orvin's form flickered in alarm. "I told you," he whispered. "Some things were meant to be forgotten." Varric staggered back, gripping his hammer. "You're telling me that thing's been sitting down here all this time?" The creatures stepped forward, and in the dim light of their torches, the details became horrifyingly clear. It was a dragon, but not like Smaug. Smaller, leaner, its scales cracked and blackened with time, its movements sluggish, as though waking from a long, heavy slumber. Dain realized the awful truth. Smaug wasn't the only one, he whispered. The dragon let out a low hiss, nostrils flaring as it scented the air, and then its gaze locked onto the crown in Dain's hands. Its pupils narrowed. Orvin took a step forward. "The crown's magic kept it asleep," he said grimly. "With it removed, it's free." The dragon's lips curled back, revealing razor-sharp teeth beneath its cracked, scarred snout. Then, with a terrifying screech, it lunged. Dain barely had time to react before the beast's clawed foot smashed into the cavern floor where he had been standing, shattering stone. Varric yanked him backward just in time, and they tumbled behind a fallen pillar as the dragon let out another thunderous roar. "We need to get out of here," Varric bellowed over the chaos. Dain gritted his teeth. "No, we woke it. We put it back to sleep." Orvin's spectral form moved swiftly, his voice sharp with urgency. "There is no sleeping now. The only way is to seal it away, forever." The dragon reared its head, inhaling deeply. Dain knew what was coming. Fire. Move, he shouted, grabbing Varric and throwing them both behind a crumbling wall. A torrent of flame exploded into the cavern, lighting the entire space in a blinding inferno. The heat was unbearable, even from behind cover. When the flames finally died down, Dain's mind raced. He had to act. He looked down at the crown in his hands. If it had sealed the dragon before, it could do so again. But how? Then it hit him. The vault, the place where the crown had been kept for centuries. It wasn't just a hiding place, it was a prison. Dain turned to Varric. We have to lure it back to the vault. Varric gave him a look of pure disbelief. You want us to run through tunnels with a dragon on our heels? Dain met his gaze firmly. You have a better idea? Varric swore under his breath. Fine, but if we live through this, you owe me a pint. Dain turned to Orvan. Can you still open the vault? Orvan's form flickered, and he nodded. If you can bring it there, I can seal it, for good. Dain clenched his fists, then turned to face the dragon. Oi! He bellowed, raising the crown high above his head. Come and take it. The dragon's pupils contracted, its eyes locked onto the ancient relic. Then, with a ground-shaking roar, it charged after them. They ran. The tunnels of Erebor blurred past them as they sprinted, the dragon's thunderous footfalls shaking the mountain. Stone cracked, gold spilled from broken vaults. Ancient halls crumbled as the beast plowed through everything in its path. Dain and Varric burst into the old vault, the massive doors looming before them. Orvan stood at the threshold, spectral hands raised as ancient runes ignited across the stone. Hurry! Orvan shouted. Dain didn't stop. He turned odd as the dragon lunged, its jaws snapping shut inches from him. At the last possible second, he flung the crown inside the vault. The dragon followed. As soon as its body crossed the threshold, Orvan's hands clashed together. The vault doors slammed shut. A massive boom echoed through Erebor as ancient magic sealed the beast away once more. The mountain trembled, and then, at last, fell silent. Dain collapsed against the stone wall, breathless. Varric groaned, rubbing his bruised shoulder. I swear to Durin, I'm never setting foot in these tunnels again. Dain exhaled, looking toward the sealed vault. We did what had to be done, he murmured. The treasure of Erebor will remain hidden. Orvan's form flickered. One last time, you have done what my people could not. Sleep well, sons of Durin. And with that, the last keeper of the chronicles faded into memory. Dain and Varric climbed their way back to the surface, leaving the past buried where it belonged. As they stepped into the golden light of Erebor's halls, Dain looked over his shoulder one last time. Some treasures were never meant to be found. Some legends were meant to sleep, and the mountain would remember. The long halls of Erebor stretched before them, lined with pillars carved by the hands of dwarves long past. Their footsteps echoed softly against the stone, the only sound in the stillness that followed the battle below. The air smelled of dust and history, of ember-lit braziers and the lingering scent of old gold. Dain and Varric walked side by side, their bodies weary, but their minds still heavy with the weight of what they had uncovered. The sealed vault behind them, hidden deep in the forgotten tunnels, held more than just treasure. It held a truth the world was never meant to know. The crown was gone, locked away with the creature that had lurked in the shadows of Erebor's bones. No songs would be sung of the battle fought in the hidden chambers. No records would be kept of the lost history they had uncovered. And perhaps, Dain thought, that was for the best. Varric sighed, rubbing a sore shoulder as they approached the entrance to the great hall. I don't know about you, he muttered, but I've had enough of dragons and cursed relics for one lifetime. Dain managed a faint chuckle. Perhaps the next adventure can involve a warm hearth and a mug of mead instead. They stepped into the golden glow of Erebor's main hall, the firelight reflecting off the vast hoard of treasure piled high around the throne. Despite the riches, despite the splendor of the mountain's heart, Dain no longer looked upon gold with the same eyes. He had seen what greed could awaken. He had seen what the past refused to let go of. He would not make the same mistake. Later that evening, as the torches burned low and the mountain quieted into the hush of midnight, Dain stood alone on a high balcony overlooking the lands beyond Erebor. The lonely mountain rose against the backdrop of the starlit sky, its mighty peak piercing the heavens. From here, he could see the faint twinkle of Lake Town's lanterns in the distance, the faint shimmer of the river winding through the valley like a silver thread. Middle-earth stretched wide before him, vast and waiting, and yet his heart remained in the mountain. He traced a hand along the stone railing, feeling the strength of the rock beneath his fingers. The halls of his ancestors were safe once more, the threat buried where it belonged. He had made his choice, not to claim the crown's power, but to protect the mountain from the fate that had nearly consumed it before. Orvin's words echoed in his mind. Some things were meant to be forgotten. Perhaps this was one of them. A soft wind drifted through the halls, carrying with it the distant sounds of a lute being plucked and the low hum of a dwarven song. The mountain was at peace again. For the first time in what felt like ages, so was Dain. As the days passed, Dain ensured that the sealed vault was marked on no map, spoken of in no records. The secret remained only with him, Varric, and the few who had ventured into the depths that day. Life in Erebor resumed. The smiths worked their forges. The halls echoed with the sounds of feasting and laughter, and the dwarves moved forward, not dwelling in the past, but shaping their future. One evening, Varric approached Dain, a puzzled look on his face. So, he mused, do we ever tell the young ones about what we found? Dain glanced up from the parchment he had been studying, a small smile playing at his lips. No, Varric raised an eyebrow, not even in a grand tale. A warning? Dain shook his head. Let the legend fade. Let Erebor remember what it will, and let the mountain keep its secrets. He leaned back in his chair, exhaling softly. We have enough ghosts in these halls. We don't need to invite more. Varric chuckled. Well, if nothing else, I hope the next generation appreciates that their king kept them from waking up another dragon. Dain smirked. Aye, let's hope they never have to know what it cost. He turned his gaze toward the great doors of Erebor, the golden runes glowing in the torchlight. Somewhere beyond them, the world went on, unaware of the dangers that had stirred beneath their feet. And that, he thought, was how it should be. Some treasures were never meant to be claimed. Some shadows were never meant to be disturbed, and some kings bore their burdens so that others never had to. As the fire burned low in the hearth, and the last echoes of the dwarves' songs faded into the mountain's endless halls, the lonely mountain stood tall and silent once more. Beneath its mighty stone walls, a secret lay buried, a mystery locked away in the darkness. And Erebor slept. The legend would fade with time, swallowed by the years, lost beneath new songs and new tales. But the mountain would always remember, and so would those who had walked its depths. As the night deepened and the fires dimmed, let the whispers of Erebor's past carry you into restful dreams, where golden halls shine, where hidden paths lead to forgotten wonders, and where the mountain's secrets remain undisturbed, just as they were meant to be. Sleep well, sleepy fellows, the adventure has come to its end, but Middle-earth's stories will live on.